Um, okay, so we are recording. I'm Dawn Emsalem. I am your liaison to the International Relations Doctoral Program. I work with students regularly in this program at all stages of the program, from entrance to dissertation deposit, actually. So I am glad that I will be able to put my face to my email address in this session. In this session, which will be posted to the online research guide, which should be linked to under the library resources tab in your Canvas course shell, the recording of this Zoom will be in there. And I'm just going to share my screen. This first part of the session is going to be a little PowerPoint, very short, just saying what we're going to be talking about, and then I'm going to do some live searching. And if any of you have specific topics that you've narrowed, I always like to do those on the fly to make it more relevant to the actual work you're doing. So again, I'm Dawn, and if you need to get my email address and contact information, if you Google Dawn Salve Library, you should be able to find me. So today, the first thing we're going to do is just talk about library services that are available, particularly for graduate students. We're going to talk about some efficiency tips, because I like to make sure that even if you're already very familiar with library research, I want to make sure you understand the Salve context and also what's available for you here, but also just some tips that you may not know to make things quicker and more efficient. We're going to be talking about our two main article databases, JSTOR and Ebsco, and the differences between them and Google Scholar, because sometimes I find that's helpful to understand sort of the back end and why you're getting the kind of results you're getting when you search in those different search tools. And then we're also going to be looking at Google Scholar Citation Index so that we can see there's one strategy for evaluating the impact of journals in the international relations field. So in terms of library services for grad students, I love working with doctoral students in INR. I do one-on-one research consults, often via Zoom. I like to hand over the control to the person I'm working with, so we can brainstorm, try strategies, and then you also get the muscle memory of trying out the searches that we do together. I help at maybe at all kinds of different stages. You might be wanting to make sure that you've been exhaustive enough in your searching when you're at the dissertation phase and you've really fleshed out your question and you've done a ton of research and you just want to make sure you've captured absolutely everything. That's I'm great for bouncing ideas off of for that. And then at the very beginning, while you're trying to narrow your topic, obviously your advisor is the first person to talk to in your committee, but it doesn't hurt to have an extra pair of ears. My expertise is not in the field of international relations. It is in research. So I have experience with working on the types of questions you might be asking, but I am not a subject matter expert. My subject matter expertise is in research. So I'm happy to work with you on that. We have email, as I said, library chat, and I'll show you where that is on the library homepage. We can interlibrary loan Salve or Helen Consortium books. A little point for that is that we send them book rate. So if you're far away from Newport, Rhode Island or international, it may take longer than your loan period to get to you. So we don't tend to do those, but we can scan chapters. So you could request an interlibrary loan of a book and let us know that you want us to scan a chapter or two within copyright. Usually it's 10% of the book or less. Excuse me. And we also interlibrary loan articles. So I'll show you how to do that. In terms of our subscription resources, we have 600,000 titles in our ebook collections and growing. And we have about 45,000 titles in our journal subscriptions. I am telling you that because if you're used to working at a R1 type institution, that's limited. But what we do at the library is help you leverage Google Scholar and other tools where materials are freely available so that you can get the materials you need. And we also use, students tend to use interlibrary loan a fair amount. We have a very good program. It tends to have 24 to, depending on how responsive the lending school is, 72-hour turnaround for interlibrary loan for articles, because we have 3 people who are assigned to work on it. So our main article databases are JSTOR and Ebsco. JSTOR is particularly strong in the humanities. It has, some people are often surprised because the material, if you're working on a very current topic that needs up-to-date information, JSTOR tends to have what we call retrospective coverage. So often there's like a rolling, what we call embargo, where you can only see 5 years previous and back to the 1800s sometimes. That is just how the JSTOR article database works. It's older articles. If you're doing something more related to theory, that's fine. But if you're working on like something related to like digital, terrorism, I'm using the wrong word, but that's just what popped into my head. You know what I'm talking about. It's something that is totally current. You're probably going to want to skip JSTOR. Ebsco is very strong in all disciplines and is totally up to current. Our JSTOR ebooks is an exception to that retrospective coverage rule. We have ebooks and ebook chapters up to 2022, and now in a few months they'll be releasing 2023 titles. So JSTOR can be good if you're looking for book chapters up to current. In terms of the search algorithm, that's one thing I want to point out that a lot of people don't know right off the bat. JSTOR has sort of like a Google-like search algorithm where it searches the full text of the article. So what that means in practice is if you put, you can put a ton of words in there. Basically, you can do a Google-like search. And in almost natural language searching, and it will return materials. However, it could be that they return irrelevant searches because it's looking for each word within the full text of the article, and it could appear anywhere. So it'll look for, if you're looking for a subject like, let me see, let me pull up the question. How are countries impacted by neighbors that are democratic as opposed to non-democratic? For example, are non-democratic societies more likely to be democratic if they're surrounded by democratic nation states? You could put that whole sentence in there, but it will look for countries through the whole text, and then impacted through the whole text, and then neighbors through the whole text. And instead of having and if it shows up anywhere in the article, it will return the result. So that can mean that you're getting irrelevant results. Ebsco, on the other hand, searches only within the title, author, journal title, and abstract or summary of the article, which means that your results are more relevant, but it's a bit finicky about what words you put in there. So you have to be very choosy and really get at the meat of your research question and only put those words in Ebsco. And then if either of you would like to discuss Refworks, if we have time at the end, this is a bibliographic citation manager. This is you don't have to use Refworks. The library subscribes to it. If you already have, as part of your research workflow, using something like Zotero, that is fine too. But it's great to get used to using a bibliographic citation manager before you reach the dissertation writing stage, because they can really help you as you organize the sources that you're citing within your dissertation. And also it automatically generates a bibliography for you, or notes, depending on what citation style you're using. So it's a great efficiency tool and it's worth the the learning curve to learn how to use it. So, and then Google Scholar. Google Scholar is another tool that it works differently than our library search tools. Nobody really knows how its algorithm works, but it does search the full text, and it's great. It's a great supplement, and sometimes I go there at the beginning stages of my research process when I'm not sure how scholars are referring to my topic or my research question. And if you can just enter the, your entire research question in Google Scholar, and you'll get results back. And sometimes they help you refine your search by showing you how scholars are referring to what words they're using to refer to your topic. You should use it with some measure of skepticism, because it includes peer-reviewed and peer-reviewed literature. It's mining data from publisher websites, so journal articles show up in there, also university websites and repositories, undergraduate theses, master's theses, repositories like the Social Science Research Network, which is a repository of scholarly papers, but they may be preprints, and they may have not undergone the peer review process yet. So they might not be the same article that ends up getting published. So all of this is important to keep in mind while you're using Google Scholar. The other great thing about Google Scholar is it does include some full text articles, and it also makes it possible for you to connect your Google Scholar account, which is just your Gmail account if you have one, to whatever institutions you're affiliated with. So you can see all of it'll click you through to all the full text articles that Salve subscribes to. And if you're associated with another higher ed institution, you can also connect it to that too. So we'll show how to do that. And that's also in your online research guide. So with that, let's go to the library homepage. And I should say first, does anybody on the call have any questions that have come up while I've been talking fast? Yes, please.
And you may cover this, so I apologize if I'm leaning ahead. With the JSTOR, when we're looking at an article, there is a read aloud option that I cannot get it to read the article aloud. It just reads the pages. How do I get it to read the PDF to me? Is that an option?
That's a great question. And I wasn't planning to cover that, so I'm glad you asked.
Oh, thank you. Because I use Natural Reader, but if I could just do it and not transfer it over to my own, that would be awesome.
So my first instinct would be to download the PDF and get it to read aloud, because that's usually what I recommend, but I'm just taking a note here to follow up in case I can't see it automatically within the first few seconds as I'm looking, because I will follow up with you afterwards if not. Great. So why don't we start with JSTOR then? So this is the library's homepage. I'll just show right now, this is our chat over here on the left. And if you have a question in the summer, our hours are a bit limited for chat. It's 10 to 4 p.m., 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But you can also email me, click on this Meet with a Librarian link and make an appointment with me. And I can meet out at lunchtime. And if it's more convenient for you to meet earlier or later in the day because of time difference, that's a possibility as well. So we're not going to talk about our book search right now, but the library has an article search, and this is where we can search either our Ebscohost databases or JSTOR. And I'll click on JSTOR right now. I mean, we can search a lot of others, but do you actually, your name is pronounced Lay, right?
Lee.
Lee, great.
Yes, ma'am. Lee Hassan. Thank you.
Thanks. And what would you like to try your search in JSTOR? Do you have your research, your variables that you're looking at?
Not for the upcoming, it's going to be something, yes. So it'll be something with democracy and gender relations for this upcoming assignment.
Okay.
Gender equality, something along those lines. And I don't have it defined completely yet, but something to do with gender equality.
Gender equality. Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just going to just try typing those two terms in. Oh my goodness. And see what happens. So the first thing we notice is that there's 71,000 results. That's our first indicator, which is that we may want to be looking for other phrases to further refine this search, but that it's fine for now. We'll scan down to see what how scholars are talking about this topic. And so we see first here, there's a chapter from a book, the book Communism's Shadow, International Women's Convention, Democracy and Gender Equality. And it highlights where the term shows up in the little summary or the blurb that it gives you below. And what we're seeing is that there's social equality and then also economic equality and gender equality. And that indicates to me that we could also limit our results by making sure JSTOR keeps the phrase gender equality together. I'm making it bigger because I just realized it might be very small on your screen. And the way to do that is to put quotes around the phrase you'd like to keep together. And you can do that in Google as well. That works in Google or JSTOR. So we're going to try to redo our search that way. And I see now we've shaved about 2,000 results off of there, but that's still better than nothing. And here we have a cornerstone for green economy. So here's an example. Now this is titled a research report. So I'm not sure if this is peer reviewed because it's not a journal article. It might not be peer reviewed. And if it's required for you to use peer reviewed sources, it might not be that this would be the first choice. Here's a journal article. Now you might note that it doesn't say democracy anywhere. So in terms of efficiency tip, I'm going to, because JSTOR doesn't, it may give you irrelevant results. One efficiency tip is to download the article by clicking on download. And what I do is Control, or if you're using a Mac, Option F, and then I do democracy, the term that did not show up. And we see that it shows up twice up here. You can see how many times it showed up, only twice, and both in the notes. So I'm not sure if this article is going to be relevant. We can read the abstract. And I'm not sure if this is going to be the best article. So that's just a quick way to see, okay, is this the meat of this article about all of my search terms, or is it just mostly about one and only slightly about the other?
And then Dawn, if I can.
Yes.
May I? Hey, how would, with the one you just pulled up or any article, how would I confirm if it had or had not been peer reviewed?
Great question. So I would say if you were in JSTOR and it says it's a journal article, you can pretty much say it's a peer-reviewed article, because one of the things about our databases is that they curate the material in them. Google Scholar doesn't curate as much at all, if at all. And so if it says journal article, it's a peer-reviewed journal article. In Ebsco, it has non-peer-reviewed materials in it, but they categorize it, and usually it's pretty accurate. So if you're in JSTOR, you're pretty safe if it says journal article. Would you agree with that, Dr. Rizova?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why it's really important to make sure you go back and forth between Google Scholar and Ebsco and JSTOR. Certainly JSTOR and Ebsco are more selective about the types of materials you encounter. If you do want to take a double look, what you can do is do just a Google search for the journal itself And then you'll be taken to the journal website where you can get information about whether it's peer-reviewed or reviewed by editors, or what the impact factor is, all the criteria that we usually associate with high quality scholarship. So there are additional checks you can run just if you want to be 100% certain about the quality of the publication.
So can I just jump in with a quick one here? So Ebsco is not a peer-reviewed in general?
Ebsco does have peer-reviewed
Okay.
sources, and when we do a search in Ebsco, I will show you how to tell how Ebsco categorizes whether
I
it's a
see.
peer review.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for that question, and please continue to jump in whenever you have questions. Okay, so this one looks like it might be very interesting, and it might even give you a clue on how to narrow your search further. So in this case, they are talking, this scholar has integrated the concepts of gender equality, democracy, religion, and culture or region. So you could be talking, you could change your or refine your search to include a discussion of those areas as well, if you were interested. So it would be very interesting to look at how this author has done this analysis. And if you looked at this, now, what I want to do now is we could do our search. Well, we know that gender equality and democracy are already all in this, the meat of this article. So we don't need to do our control or option F. We may look at the abstract. We can see this is in the journal Sociology. And now what I want to do is check on this read aloud question. So I'm going to click on the title, and that's going to take us into the article record. And Lee, I'm so interested because I've never gotten this question, and I love it when people ask me questions like this because I've never used this. Where did you find the read aloud option?
I think it's right click. If you right click any place on there.
Oh, so it's in the browser, in the browser of the, like Google, like right now I'm using Google Chrome.
Upstairs, so cool.
So that's interesting. You know what I'm going to do?
3600.
I'm going to take that question offline, and I'm going to look into it and get back
Because
to
when
you
I
after.
do it, it leads all the pages, but not the article. Like it leads, it'd say Sage, the relationship. I can't get it to read the actual article.
What I
would
would
be so
suggest
useful.
trying is, what happens if I download it and it opens in here? So
And
I've
there's not
actually,
a
there's
read
no-
aloud option.
okay. So if it's in an Adobe PDF, there is an option for getting it to read aloud. And that's what I'm going to look into. And I'm going to send
Okay.
you what I find out about it.
That's awesome. Like I said, it would be a bonus. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So the last thing I wanted to show you about JSTOR is the citation function. So if you click on the cite button for an article you're interested in, it gives you the citations. You'll note that it's incorrectly formatted currently because these are all caps. So basically, this citation function is just taking the raw metadata that the database gives it, and if it's input incorrectly, your citation is going to be incorrect. So you do want to double check any citation that comes out of here. And it also gives you an option to export to a bibliographic citation manager. So if we say, clicked on export to Refworks, this is opening, it shouldn't do that. But it did, it's okay. It's exporting to my Refworks. It's prompting me to log in. And you can see, this is what Refworks looks like. It's a tool that is called a bibliographic citation tool. This is, for example, I separated it into folders according to class. I can select all the items on a page. And I can choose to create a bibliography if I want of all these items. I'm choosing Chicago style and it automatically generates my bibliography. So that's basically why Refworks is kind of great, but we can talk more about that if we have time after. I just wanted to show you the citation tool. And the next thing, again, jump in if you have any questions. The next thing I'm going to look at from the library's homepage and our article search is articles in Ebscohost. And Amgad, did I pronounce your name properly?
Close enough. It's Amjad.
Amjad, that wasn't close at all.
Well, it's just with the hard G. Yeah.
Amjad. Are you interested in any particular variables from the data set that we can search in Ebsco?
Oh yeah, I mean, Professor Rizova keep us busy. So what I'm interested in the next assignment is the debt or the national debt, and in relation with the expenditure to military or health or education. So maybe debt or national debt to military spending.
Great. I'm going to just give those a try. I'm going to try national debt and military spending and see what happens. So again, we're searching in the main search box here, which is searching all of our Ebsco databases. And this is what our Ebsco result list looks like. Right away, you'll see our search results. I'm going to make this bigger. Our search results, it's showing that we have 808, so we could refine further. You'll also notice that there are way fewer than we had in Ebsco, and that is because of, than we had in JSTOR, and that is because of the difference in search algorithm. So they are only searching, for example, the sections of the article title, author, source, and abstracts, and then probably also the descriptors or subject headings as well. Definitely the descriptors or subject headings as well. So that's why it's got many fewer results. Now, a few other things to show you about Ebsco is that, sorry, made that smaller, is right here we can see Ebsco's categorizing this as a periodical, the New Yorker, not peer-reviewed. This one, it's categorizing as an academic journal. Both JSTOR and Ebsco have academic articles in other languages other than English. So this one's a Spanish language article. Let me see if there's some other types of sources. On the left-hand side here, it shows the source types. So you could choose that you wanted to limit only on the left-hand side here to peer-reviewed sources.
Oh.
Academic journals may or may not be peer-reviewed. They may be considered scholarly, but not peer-reviewed. The peer review process is just it's a subset of scholarly types of a subset of journals have performed peer review. So if we clicked on that, it would redo our search, and then we are down to 128 results. Now, a few efficiency tips within Ebsco. So if we look at the subject headings, we can go down and see, this gives you a snapshot of how scholars are looking at your topic, because subject headings are what we call a controlled vocabulary, where an indexer or librarian read this article and said, this article is exactly about these topics. And they basically put all the articles into on that topic into a bin together, and you can redo your search and it'll bring back all of those articles. So this one's in the CPA journal, accounting journal, and it's talking about public spending, military spending, and the US. So one way scholars are limiting our search is by looking at this topic through a geographic lens. So just looking at one country. You may be interested more in a comparative type of analysis. This one is looking at international finance. So this is a search term that Ebsco, a subject term that you might be interested in, looking at through that lens of that subject term. And here's an interesting one. This is in Political Research Quarterly. It's very recent, or no, it's not very recent. I forgot what year we're in. March 2021, it's last year. And this one is looking at national security and military spending, and it's talking about the consequences of. So let's just take a look at this one. It's a good example because we could do a search, another search within here by clicking on one of these topics. If we found one that was more specific that we wanted to look at. And here's the abstract. How does increasing military spending affect social spending and economic growth? And it also is showing what type of model analysis they're doing, vector autoregression model. That's not my area of expertise, but it's a quantitative research approach, correct, Dr. Hizova?
Absolutely.
So that also gives you some information about the author's approach. And the author even says their conclusion in the abstract, which is extremely useful for you. So you can get a clue of what the article is doing and concluding. Now, if you wanted the full text, oh, Amjad, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I just said, yeah, I agreed with you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And then the other thing, and very importantly, is how to get a hold of the full text of the article. So in this case, I don't see, there'd usually be a little PDF icon over here. It's not there, but that's fine. You just click on this Find Full Text Interlibrary Loan. And what Ebsco is doing is it's going into all the library's other databases. We have like 100, and it's looking to see if we have it anywhere else. And we do in Sage journals, and here it is. It looks totally different, but you just look for your little PDF symbol and click on it, and it will download that, and you can save it. Now, if you wanted to do, if you wanted to export this, you could, or cite it, you click on Cite to get the citation, copy and paste, or you can export to Refworks. So those are the two tools for getting your citations or sending off to a bibliographic citation manager. If we clicked on any of these, so for example, military spending, it'll redo your search for the subject heading. Only all the articles here are definitely, the meat of the article is about military spending. And then you may also want to add another, you could add another search term in there, such as national debt. And that will do, it's redoing the search for a subject heading. So all the articles are definitely about military spending, and Ebsco is looking for the phrase national debt somewhere, although it may not be a subject. And see here, Ebsco's being smart, and it's giving you a synonymous phrase, public debt. So you may, as you're doing your research, you might want to keep a little notebook where you write down other phrases, because you can try to redo your search in all of these search tools using other terms that scholars use when they refer to your topic. Let's see, I think that's all I wanted to show you about Ebsco. Oh, I actually want to show you how to download the PDF. So if you want the PDF, you just click on the PDF. And the little thing that's a little tricky is, well, it's actually not tricky at all. Now you can download it by clicking on this or download PDF. I think that's it for Ebsco. Was there anything else? Dr. Hizova, did you have anything that you would like to add to this?
I think this is great. And I really love the fact that you're structuring all the searches based on the variables, because that's exactly how the searches should be structured. Those should be the keywords. Yeah, everything should be about the specific variables chosen by our colleagues. Perhaps at the end, if you could add a little bit about open access publications, because there is, an explosion of open access publications, and I think it's really critical to address, especially once they're at their dissertation stage, how to distinguish between high quality open access publications and the ones that are just for profit.
Excellent. And actually, I will point out your research guide real quick. I'm getting to your research guide in a way that I wouldn't expect you to because I can't access your course shell. But again, it's in the library resources link in your Canvas course shell. But this is what your research guide looks like, basically. And there is a link in here to predatory, to a research guide we have on predatory publishing. And that it's sort of a subset of what Dr. Rizova is talking about. This is a suggestion. With the rise of open access, there's this whole thing that's arisen, which is very important for you to understand because you will be probably publishing and you will probably be getting solicitations from these types of journals from time to time. Our faculty members have gotten them and been taken in by them. And it's important to assess a journal before you publish or cite it. And because there are some journals that purport to be scholarly, but their peer review process may be very subpar, and so they're not very well respected because of that, or they may not actually be journals for all purpose, in any real definition of it may be just for profit, and so this gives some criteria that you could use to assess a journal. There's a lot of these criteria. And then there's some, just some easier tips. This one suggests a journal citation reports, which is something you have to pay to access. The Google Scholar Citation Index does something different, but for the similar purpose. And I'm going to show you how to use that because it's free. So that's like a side note, but just to tell you that this is in your research guide. It's a link at the bottom of the page talking about predatory publishing. All right, let's go to Google Scholar, which you can get to by Googling Google Scholar. And I'll just do that for you.
May I jump in here?
Please do, yes.
Do you guys have access, since there are some open sources or open access, to subscriptions or a discounted subscription to, for instance, The Economist or Washington Post or Bloomberg or any other outside sources?
Great question. So we do. And the way to identify whether we do or not is if you Google Salve Library, get to this page. If you're looking for a particular journal title and you're not searching by topic for journals of any journal, an article in any journal, you can check by clicking on journal titles from the library's homepage and type the title in there. Now, The Economist is a sad example for me because we only have this journal in print because it's too expensive for us to subscribe to the full online version.
Okay.
So if you clicked on it, it would tell you that we only have it in our print, and that's actually incorrect. I believe we keep all of the back files of The Economist. It says coverage 90 days ago to present. But if you had an article that you wanted, we would scan it and email it to you. So that's a bit of a hassle that you wouldn't get immediate access, but we can get you access.
That would still help. Thank you. Yeah.
And your other example was, the Wall Street Journal is another example. So the Wall Street Journal, we do have a site license to the New York Times, which means that you can, if you did type New York Times on here, and the Wall Street Journal is on my priority list. I want to get the same thing for them. But if you clicked on this top one, New York Times, and we clicked on it, it's going to take you to the New York Times site. I'm logged in. I'm already logged in a different way, so that's why it gives me this. But it will take you there. If you don't already have a New York Times account, you can create one, and it will be through Salve. You'd use your Salve email address, and you can create one, and it's just to the New York Times website, and you get access to the full content for free. I'd like to get the same thing for the Wall Street Journal, but we don't currently have that. But we have access to it through LexisNexis, which I think is up to present, but LexisNexis is, I find, very difficult to use and to instruct students on how to use. You could try it. And then we also have back files very easily accessible to the Wall Street Journal from ProQuest, which is very good too. But to rehash, if you wanted to see if we had specific journals, library homepage, journal title search.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to go to Scholar, Google Scholar, and I'm going to try your search. Again, I'm going to try a crazy search. I'm going to do democracy, gender equality, and I'm going to do military spending just for fun to see what comes up. Now, one thing we noticed in JSTOR is that we had better luck when we put quotes around our phrases. So I'm just going to try that in Google Scholar to keep those phrases together. And that article we found in JSTOR comes up first. And I'm just going to show you. So I am logged in as Salve librarian, and I have configured Google Scholar to know that I'm affiliated with Salve. So it's showing me this find at Salve link, which would link me right through. This is also on your research guide, the instructions that I'm about to show you, so you can go back and check there. But the way to connect your Salve account to Google Scholar is to be signed into your Gmail if you have it, and then to click this little hamburger over here, these 3 lines, and then go to settings and library links. And you can add Salve Regina University. And what is the institution that you're affiliated with, Dr. Rizova, the other institution?
Christopher Newport University.
So then you can, it looks like there are 2 options for that. So if I added these 2 to my library links and saved it, then it's showing me, it seems to be prioritizing. It took Salve out, and it's showing the Christopher Newports. So, and then when it wasn't available there, then it was available at Salve. So again, settings and library links to get that configured there. So that's and that's when you're logged in to your Gmail. All right, so let's take a look at the functions in Google Scholar. So we added a bunch here, and they're showing whenever this doesn't have a PDF next to it, that means that Google Scholar is not giving you the access to the full text. So you may be interested in this article, and if you clicked on it, it would take you to the page in the, looks like Salve does have access to some portion of Wiley, but probably not this article. So we subscribe to databases. The publisher has many different databases and packages that we can subscribe to. And in this case, we didn't subscribe to the Journal of the Review of Development Economics, apparently, but we subscribe to something else in Wiley, and that's why it's telling me that it's through Salve Regina. So you can get the information about this article. If I clicked on PDF, it's going to try to ask me to pay for it, and you never want to do that ever. What you want to do is ask for an interlibrary loan request, and you can do that. You know, you could Google Salve Regina interlibrary loan and it would take you to this page, but it's also right here on the library's homepage, and you would fill out an interlibrary loan request. And it just asks you, if you're accessing it through Google Scholar, it will ask you to fill in all this information from this article that you like. So that's only if Google Scholar is not providing you with the full text to the article. Now, a few other things. So let's see. Let's say there's a few other functions that are useful in Google Scholar. One is the cite option. So you can click on cite and get your citation. I find Google Scholar citations are a little less accurate than the database ones. Sometimes they're a little light on the information that usually goes into the citation. You can fill it in, but you can also export to Refworks by clicking here, or if you're using any of these other citation tools. The next tool that is super useful is this cited by tool. So you can see that this article has been cited by 254 other articles, which would indicate to me that this is a significant article. It's also from 2007, so it's had more time to accumulate citations, but scholars seem to think this is a significant article. I'm going to make this a little bigger to make sure you can see it better. So if we clicked on cited by 254, it shows us all of the people, all of the articles that have cited that original article that's up here, the relationship between in Arab and Muslim nations. And then you can see here, for example, this article is not at all related to your topic, but it is cited by 368. So the cited by tool can be a way of identifying significance or impact of an article. And that is only available in Google Scholar at our library. The other thing that is super useful within this cited by tool is, for an efficiency tip, is if you found an article that was exactly on your topic and you really wanted to ensure that you could, if you wanted to ensure, like, leverage that, you could say this article was exactly what you were looking for. You could search within citing articles, and maybe you'd want to look at, I don't know, maybe you were more interested in Buddhist, I don't know, if you were looking through the lens of religion, perhaps you are looking at Buddhism or Buddhist nations, or maybe you'd be interested in Europe. And what it's doing when you redo this search is you find a phrase, maybe you're adding a variable or something to this search, and it's looking only for within the citing articles for that phrase. So that's another efficiency tip. Now, we have 12 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we can talk a bit more about the other, the Google Citation Index, which is right here, and I have it linked. I have it in my search bar. What happens when I Google Google Citation Index? Does it take you there? I also put the link in your research guide. No, it doesn't. So the link is in your research guide. So what this tool does is right now it's showing you the absolute top publications within academia in general. So Nature is the most cited journal. And right here, there are, right here is the H5 index, which is a measure of impact. And what this is I should probably check. It's 414 citations. It averages 414 citations per article. Actually, I'm not sure exactly. I've researched this before, what exactly H5 means, but I can't remember. Do you know, Dr. Rizova, would you describe
Not-
it in a particular way?
Not off the top of my head. I'm not sure
It's
how the.
really my job to explain that, but
Okay.
sorry. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because actually I don't get to talk about this in a lot of classes. So something I'm not, it doesn't flow right off my head. But within this, so these are, you'll notice that the top publications here are sciences, in the sciences, but we can change our categories right here. And maybe we want to look at the social sciences. INR is an interdisciplinary major, so it may veer into business, economics and management, or humanities, but I'm going to check the social sciences right now because of the type of research question we're looking at. Now, this is showing you the top publications in the social sciences, but you can also click on subcategories, and then you can see there's international law, human migration, social sciences general, and political science. And if we click on political science, a lot of these journals do cover INR. It may not have our top journals in INR, but the other thing you can do is search for your journals here. So if we were looking at international security, for example, it's showing us the citation factor right here. International security has an H5 index of 36. Now, the reason it's not higher than that it may also be reflective of the fact that it is a specialized subject. So comparatively, the number of scholars that are writing articles is a smaller subset of the overall number of scholars in the world. So really what you want to do is compare within your subcategory, like if you're looking at political science, for example, you can see that, if we're looking at international security and comparing it to another journal, like this one, international security is an H5 index of 36, meaning like an average of 30, I believe an average of 36 citations per article. And if we looked at Political Science Quarterly, which is a very well respected journal, for example, oh man, I don't know why that happened. The H5 index is 13. All right. Well, that didn't work the way I expected, but these are all journals within the articles within this journal, which have a very high citation rate. So for example, 364 for this particular article. In sum, what I want to tell you is that you can use this as one strategy to identify whether a journal or an article is a high impact. And by extension, if it's been cited a lot, it's one measure to show that that it's credible and that scholars respect they may disagree with the findings, but it generated a lot of discussion. And the other approaches that I suggest is if you wanted to, as Dr. Rizova mentioned, if we did a search for just a Google search for the journal title, International Security, and I might have to put journal after it because if you just Google international security, it's going to be articles or Google results about. So right here, on the right-hand side, this is coming from Wikipedia, right here. Wikipedia is saying it's peer-reviewed. Another indicator is the publisher. So this is coming from MIT Press. That's a good sign. University press, especially a well-respected, well-known university, is a good indicator. And then also sometimes you may, it's held by JSTOR as well. And then you may also look for what other people are saying about the journal. So the Belfer Center is talking about that this is America's leading peer-reviewed journal. And then we see there's the European Journal of International Security, which is different. Now, one thing you have to be careful when you're Googling journal titles is that one approach of predatory publishers is to choose a title that is very close to a well-respected journal. And sometimes they just swap where the word journal shows up in the title. Basically to confuse scholars who may be thinking of publishing in it or subscribing. So that is one thing. You were talking about open access. So if we're talking about, there's two different types of, there are journals that charge libraries to subscribe to them. And those are the journals, a lot of our journals in JSTOR and Ebsco are journals that charge for access. And then there's what is called open access journals. And this is a new mode of scholarly publishing where it began out of a desire to equalize access to scholarly research. Because these journals are very expensive to subscribe to, and it limits the number of people, especially in other countries, who may not have access to, whose libraries may not be able to afford to subscribe to them, or smaller institutions like ours. And so they don't charge for access to these journals. So there's a directory of open access journals. Let me see. And this does do some curation, but the quality within this directory of open access journals is variable. You can see open access journals in your field here. But it's good to do a Google search on these and see what, think tanks are saying about these journals and what scholars are saying about these journals. Because often, if it's a predatory journal, you'll find that scholars are chatting about it online, and there'll be Google results where those discussions are happening. That is not a extensive coverage of the issue of open access journals, but it's like a little taste of it. Was there anything else that, any questions or anything else that you would like to add to that, Dr. Rizova?
I think this was very thorough and just fabulous. I learned a few tips myself, so I'm very appreciative of your walking us through all the various databases, and the efficiency tips I think are incredibly useful, especially for an overwhelmed doctoral student who may not have too much time to conduct research. So I think that this was excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime. And
I don't have anything to add.
Can I? Dawn, I agree. This was fabulous. Thank you. Professor Rizova, do you have time to clarify a little bit on the first assignment regarding what we just touched on?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
I do.
And I just want to pull the thread a little bit. When Dawn was taking us through searching probably the dependent variable and maybe putting one of the independent variables in parentheses. So for the assignment, the journal, the review article, are you just looking for an article on one of the independent variables we may use?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. So what I would recommend doing to make sure you have plausible hypotheses is have at least one source about each independent variable and how that independent variable connects to the dependent variable. So let's say if you're looking at gender equality and one of your variables was democracy,
Yes.
conduct a search on combining democracy with your dependent variable. And let's say if one of your control variables was, let's say, membership in the United Nations or membership in the European Union, then conduct a separate search that combines your dependent variable with the control. So you'll have to have some sources for each one of your hypotheses.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Okay. So but you're not necessarily looking for 500 word, or yes, you're looking for like a quick.
I'm looking for, so, just like the literature review is basically a critical summary of sources that provides the background information for your hypotheses. So I'm not looking
Got
for a
it.
specific number about each hypothesis, but definitely do a little bit of digging to make sure you have a plausible research hypothesis.
Got it. I think I got it. If not, yeah, I'm sure you'll line me back up.
Mhm, mhm. I am, by the way, working on a separate video that goes into more detail about the assignment.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll be recording it today and I'll make it available on Canvas. So you'll see that very soon.
I'll be watching.
That's a
for
great
it.
question. Thank you for raising it. Okay.
No, thank you. This was fabulous. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Professor. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amjad, any questions from you?
Well, just yes, one for Don. Thank you so much, first. And you mentioned research guide too many times. I am new to Salvi. This is my first semester. So what do you mean by research guide?
So it's a website basically that I make that is tailored to this assignment, and what I
Oh, I
think
see.
you
Okay.
might want to know for this assignment, some strategies or tips. And I make a walkthrough from your Canvas course to this guide. And actually, Dr. Rizova, if you can check the Canvas and make sure that the guide is on there under library links or
Absolutely.
library resources, I believe,
Library resources. Okay.
that would be great, because if it isn't, I can't see if the attempt I made to connect it worked. I can't test it.
I will check immediately and let you know if for some reason I can't find it.
Great. Yes. So Imjed, I will be adding this video to that, and I'll also email you the link to the video, Dr.
Sure.
Rizova, in case you wanted to put it somewhere else.
Thank you.
And yeah, and so it's basically, you'll find in your other courses, if I don't work directly with them, there's a link to a general guide under library resources, which is just for general for international relations. So it's not based on a specific assignment, it's just general tips. And it does include information about dissertation and dissertation deposit and everything like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate you doing this.
Great, thanks for making time. And thank you both, Lee and Jed, for logging in. I'm sure you're both very busy, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you.
have a great
Bye.
day.
You
Bye.
too.
You too, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.